I mean, talking about a style, we'll then move on to the Orlando Centenary Hill Barossa Shiraz. Barossa, obviously, the home of many of Australia's greatest wines. And this is, I guess, Orlando's shot at the title in some ways. Ben, how do you make a Barossa Shiraz to stand out when there's so much competition around?
Yeah, look, I guess Centenary Hill is one of those wines. Again, it's another one we've been making for a while, so there's a bit of a style to it. We do use a bit of American oak in there in this wine, so you can see that sort of coconutty character coming through, which is a bit of a nod to the past of Barossa, where a lot of American oak was used with a fair bit of vigour. But we do source all the fruit from a specific site around Jacobs Creek, very close to where the Grant family originally planted their first vines. So it's quite I guess, a sort of southern Barossa style, sub-regional style, maybe central southern, depending on where you sort of draw that boundary. But again, sort of similar to Lawson's, it does have that sense of place. We've got some vines that go into this that are, pushing 100 years old now. So there's a lot of that old vine character in there as well. And just trying to keep it from that same place, similar winemaking styles, but also this is one of the wines that I guess we're evolving a little bit to try to keep up with the fashion and the times and keep it modern. There's a bit of whole bunch in this one, but not too much. We don't want it to stand out. We just want it to be another one of those layers and complexing characters in the wine.
Tony, love a bit of American oak, I imagine.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because some of my tastings just in the last few weeks have been with wines with American oak, or a combination of French and American oak. So the management of that it must be really interesting for you, Ben, in terms of not getting it so coconutty, vanilla-y, sweet elements into it, to keep it spiced rather than sweet spice, to find that kind of balance. And also, I'm fascinated by whole bunch in Barossa Shiraz, because I know there's people I've spoken to in Barossa, there's a bit of discussion about whole bunch in Shiraz and how much works, whether or not it provides sort of that that green stemminess that maybe not works in the generosity and sweetness of Barossa Shiraz. So what is the thinking from your side of things for that?
So I guess we've got a bit of a luxury in Orlando that we can put down a lot of different parcels. So we ferment those blocks out in several different fermenters, using some with zero whole bunch, and then we sort of push around 25% maximum. And then when we come to blending, that's when we start looking at those individual barrels and how many barrels of that 25% whole bunch should we actually introduce to the final blend. And it's a small blend, so we might just be taking one barrel, literally one barrel. Just trying to add a little bit of that spiciness, a bit of the stemmy tannin character as well, and a whole bunch. You get a little bit of cab mat character because there's obviously, you try to keep those bunches as, as whole as possible for as long as possible, but super gentle. But again, this is it's a nod to the past in this one. We don't want it to look super cab macky like a lot of modern Australian wines are sort of taking those Beaujolais cues now. We want it to be, to still look like Centenary Hill, but just with a little bit of a modern twist to it.
And is there a thing about Southern Barossa, Northern Barossa? I mean, in terms of you're tending to source from Jacobs Creek South for this wine, and then you've obviously got your other, your Prince Shed Northern Barossa from, sort of up there, Ebenezer and Greenock kind of way. I mean, is the fruit radically different?
I guess the more Barossa wines you taste, the more you see the differences. For me, the Southern Barossa really adds those peppery spice notes. I guess the cooler breezes coming through there. And then you look at the Northern Barossa, and I find the fruit is really quite dark, but the tannins are really they're almost sweet. They're soft and big and generous. Makes really big, juicy wines, whereas from down south, you get more of the peppery spice notes and those sort of things coming in.
So what was the proportion of whole bunch in there, in this wine in 2015, approximately?
Yeah, across the whole blend. There's one component in there that had about 25%. We put in a couple of barrels. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's only a few percent across that. But, it's, it's the sort of salt and pepper, I guess.
Yeah. Shanteh, at a restaurant, I mean, do you think that whole bunch character in Barossa Shiraz is something that restaurant goers are looking for?
I think that perhaps the more discerning drinkers want to see more complexity. However, I don't know if they'd articulate it like in that way. I certainly think on a list, this wine, people do ask for these styles. They want something that over delivers, that's so generous, and I think it's a beast of a wine, that's for sure. But that's very valid in terms of what people are asking for, and you need to have wines like this on your list, so when someone comes and you can get out the big decanters and really showcase something that just over delivers for what I think is the price point for this wine. So